When we originally got over there, we had 10 airplanes to a squadron. 3 squadrons to a group, 3 groups to a wing, etc., to make up an Air Corps, Air Force. We had 10 airplanes and 15 crews originally because they didn't have enough airplanes. And originally we only had maybe 10 or 12 crews, so you flew every day. To get to the 15, we had to wait for replacements to come in. So in those first missions, it was fly, sleep, and you flew almost every day or every other day. Anyhow, as I said, we used up 4 airplanes. The first plane, we crash landed at Iwo Jima. The Japanese were still fighting on Iwo. We ran out of fuel, had a bad engine, and turned to Iwo Jima, which was about halfway between Guam and Japan. And we made an emergency landing there. And as I said, the Japanese still held the island, and it was nothing but a Japanese airstrip, which was very short because they didn't have big airplanes, and made of gravel and stone. That's all it was. Anyhow, we stopped right at the edge of the jungle. We were so close to the jungle we couldn't turn around. We had to wait for a tractor to come and pull us out. So we're sitting there waiting for the tractor, and I'm in the nose, and I look out, and this flash is coming out of the jungle. I said, Jesus Christ, somebody's shooting at us. Well, I had 6 .50 caliber machine guns. I called the CFC man to give me the guns. I pressed one little rubber trigger, cut down the whole jungle with 6 .50 calibers. You know what 6 .50 calibers will do? They'll tear a car apart in 2 minutes. Anyhow, nobody fired at us after that. I don't know who was in there. I don't know who was firing, but they stopped. Anyhow, a tractor took and pulled us out of there. The plane was so bad they junked it. We couldn't take it back. We had to wait overnight for transport to get back to Guam. And they put us in, again, they put us up in the Marine tents. What we didn't know, what the tents were right at the end of a, what the hell they call them? Night fighters, the Phantoms, runway. The middle of the night, the night fighters go out and they take off right over our tent, and the roars were unbelievable. We didn't know what the hell was happening. Anyhow, we realized finally. I went back to sleep. That was plane number 1. Plane number 2, replacement crew was scheduled. In other words, if you weren't scheduled to fly, a replacement crew, some of these new ones coming in, because we were shortage of airplanes, would take your airplane and they'd fly the mission. Anyhow, replacement crew came in, took our plane that day, was never seen or heard from again. Now you ask yourself, was it the airplane or was it the crew? Third plane, we were standby crew. Standby crew is you sit in a truck at the base of the tower and you wait for a call. Standby is if somebody, for example, a gunner, falls off the ladder getting into the plane, because they were so high you had to use a ladder, especially in the tail. It breaks a leg or whatever. They don't pull that gunner out, they pull the whole crew out. And the standby crew takes that airplane, whatever plane it is. So we had to go on a mission as standby, and we're taxiing out of our parking space, and getting in the line for takeoff, and who do you think we're right behind? Our own ship. You can tell by the numbers on them. We're taxiing out behind our own airplane. Now the runways were 2 parallel runways. You took off 30 seconds apart. So this guy would take off, then this one, which would put you 1 minute behind the plane in front of you. Now the runways were laid out so that at the end of the runway, the cliff dropped straight into the water, about 500 feet, straight into the water. And the practice was just get your wheels off the ground because we were so heavy, loaded bombs and fuel, that you couldn't just shoot up into the air. The practice was get your wheels off the ground, get over the cliff, put your nose down, pick up 100 miles an hour speed, and then get back on your track. Well, we're 1 minute behind our own ship. He gets off the end of the runway. We're about halfway down. His nose is down, never comes up. Went straight into the water and blew up. We're right behind him. I'm sitting in the nose. Whole goddamn thing blew up in front of me. What do? You keep going. Because you got to fly the mission. The next morning, they didn't even find pieces. Anyhow, they had loaded bombs and loaded fuel. Again, you ask yourself the question, was it the airplane or was it the crew? There but for the grace of God. We completed our mission on plane number 4, 35 missions. Actually, we did not fly 35 bombing missions. We flew 34. The 35th mission was a photo recon. The Japanese said, "We surrender," over the radio, but there was nothing official. There was no surrender papers signed, nothing. So we were still flying missions. Our mission, they took 3 airplanes from each squadron, and they gave us charts that showed there should be a PW camp here, there, wherever. We went to Nagoya that day, and our mission was to find the PW camp, photo it, and bring it back. We had a passenger, we had a lieutenant colonel from wing headquarters and from intelligence. And he knew the city of Nagoya like you know your hometown. He knew the names of the streets, he knew the names of the buildings, he knew everything about Nagoya. And I sit in the nose, and he was kneeling behind me, and I had a what they called a gun camera. It had a lens about that big around. All you did was cock it and fire it. And he's pounding on my shoulders, get a picture of this, get a picture of that, and I'm shooting all these pictures. I have some of them. I'm shooting all these pictures. And he was like a kid at the circus, unbelievable. That was our 35th mission. And when we brought back the pictures, the rest of the squadron was loading up with food and medical supplies. They put wooden platforms in the bomb bays and loaded the platforms with case goods of medical and food. They didn't put parachutes on them because with a parachute they'd drift off and the Japanese people would get it, not the prisoners. So they strapped them, metal strapped, 2 or 3 cases together, loaded them on the platforms, and their job was to locate the camp, dive right into it, drop their load, and pull out. What nobody expected or realized, the prisoners came running out to the courtyards, screaming, "We're saved," and they dropped all this canned goods on top of them, killing them. They killed some, but nobody, they didn't read about that part, right? You just read about the rescue.